I'm going to argue today that the correct American view, the Western view, is to be against bin Laden and against Islamic terrorism. Okay, that's extreme Islamic ideology. Also can be called Islamism. So that's the ideology that is inherently just incompatible with the West, that is within Islam. Now, if Islam adapts itself and people take on a new set of Islamic values that are compatible with the West, that's great. I've personally known people in my life that identify as part of the faith of Islam that also retain Western values. And to me, I see that as a beautiful thing. Western values in 2000. Post-Cold War, pre-9/11 optimism. The 12 listed: individualism, democracy, rule of law, free speech, capitalism or free markets, meritocracy, secularism, scientific progress, multiculturalism or liberal tolerance, globalization, national sovereignty, and privacy. Let's talk about some of these in detail. Individualism was very strong. This was a strong focus on self-expression, personal achievement, and autonomy. This is distinct from, let's take another country that's not the West, China. China, individuals are not, self-expression is not as important. It's not valued. It wasn't in the year 2000. It isn't right now, and historically it hasn't been. In America and other places in the West, individual achievement is seen as a good thing. Democracy. Liberal democratic governance is seen as the global standard. It was back in that day that we thought if we give along this good idea of democracy, other nations will want it, use it, and become enlightened like the rest of us, like Americans. And this project we're not as optimistic about that project nowadays. But back in the year 2000, that's what people thought of. We thought of rule of law. There was stable belief in courts, constitutions, and impartial justice. That is not the case now. I blame Donald Trump for that, of ignoring what, and J.D. Vance and all of them, ignoring what courts are saying. Now, there's another side of that too, where the courts have become a little bit too liberal in their interpretation, and I think that's also bad. But I think it takes individuals to ruin the system like that, and so we used to have respect for rule of law that is no longer present. Free speech. There was robust defense of uncensored expression, especially post-communism. So think in the 90s, free speech was important. You could say whatever you wanted. Capitalism and free markets. This was neoliberal economics. They were all embraced. There was minimal skepticism. This has changed. The world's changed. People don't believe in that anymore, but they did when I was growing up. And they did in the year 2000. Okay, this is all Western values of the year 2000. I'm gonna contrast this to 2019. Meritocracy. This was the belief that success comes from effort and talent. So, unfortunately, this is degraded. I don't believe that this is important nowadays like it was back in the year 2000. We valued secularism. There was a clear boundary between religion and state. Nowadays, you may have heard that there's the Gnostic parasite that's within the Democrats. So it's like, James Lindsay has a whole thing about this, and if you follow this channel, you might be interested in some of that kind of stuff. On this channel, I've rejected Gnosticism, and yet there's a weird religious element that's within politics, and I think that should be dismissed. It should be rejected. That's not. There should be a boundary between religion and state, and so that's secularism. Scientific progress was seen as a good thing. It was actually seen as we're on a continuum, we're getting better and better and better. That's optimism in tech, medicine, and globalization. Multiculturalism, this is liberal tolerance. If you look back, it's actually a radically cool, like interesting idea to be tolerant of other people and allow them to still participate in your economy. So, the Greeks said way back then, the ancient Greeks, they said you had to be Greek. And if you're outside of us, you're not allowed past the city walls. And so they would rejected the barbarians, the people from that weren't Greek. If you look at the Ottoman Empire, they were radically new back in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. When they would take over, their official state religion was Muslim. They were Muslims, but they valued tolerance. So actually similar to like the Mongols, where they had religious tolerance, where they allowed other people to practice whatever they wanted. And so by that, they were both the Mongols and the Ottomans were able to grow their empires. And it was very popular it worked for many years. And in America, that's been something that we very much value is, ability to be from any background, but you've got to have the liberal values. And so I hear people on the right wing nowadays in 2025 that reject all liberal values. And it's like, well, and they cite things like, those people aren't compatible to be with us in America. And it's like, I get it. I totally get that. But you can't reject, you must be tolerant of other people's beliefs. And so I hope that nuance makes sense to you guys. Let's keep going, all right? Let's speed this up too. Globalization, it was seen as a good thing. It was viewed as inevitable and mostly positive. National sovereignty. What does sovereignty mean? That means that it's the most sacred thing and nobody can take it from you. And so back then, if you had a nation, it was seen as sovereign. So you do not attack our nation. We'll put up flags. We will become more patriotic. We'll say we never forget. And it united the country as a whole, even though it was a terrible tragedy. National sovereignty was valued, more so back in 2000. It's increasingly entangled in supranational entities. Think the EU and NATO. This was seen as a good thing back in the year 2000. But then you have Donald Trump now that has very much rejected the idea that being part of the EU and NATO is a good thing. I've got a lot to say about that, but that's just a difference between the year 2000. And then privacy was respected. It was largely respected in legal and digital spheres. Okay, let's talk about Western values in 2019, okay? Post 9/11, post 2008 crash, we're in the digital age. Identity politics have risen. I think identity politics are awful. I don't think they're good. But identity and group politics, okay, here's the 12 here. I'll just list them out. Identity and group politics, that's one. Equity, not just equality. Environmentalism. Skepticism of capitalism. Digital freedom versus surveillance. Social justice. Free speech reframed. Mental health awareness. Anti-authoritarianism with nuance. Globalization in crisis. Inclusivity. And tech ethics. The identity and group politics, this is a rise of collective identities. People identify with their race, gender, orientation, etc. Okay? Not based. Equity, not just equality. This is a focus on outcomes and systemic imbalances, not just formal rights. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's based. Environmentalism. Climate change as central and ethical political issue. I think it's important to care about the environment, but not in a sacred level that, they're shaming you and making you feel bad about your individual, filling up at the gas tank and things like that. When there's little corporations that do way more harm, like BP, that, us as individuals shouldn't be punished or shamed. But yeah, I've got a whole amount of thoughts on that, but let's stick with 9/11. So The Western values in 2019, skepticism and capitalism. I can't believe that this is a thing. I'm very much on this channel. We're capitalist and we are proud of it. It is the best system. It's not perfect. I mean, you have to be tough out there, right? Like, it's a tough world. But capitalism allows entrepreneurs to acquire capital and deploy that capital in as much a frictionless way as possible so that they can start businesses that bring value and benefit other people. You may think that's naive, but I believe in that. I think that that's the optimal system, and anything that's gets in the way of that is a bad thing, because you want to bring the most amount of value to customers that are willing to part with their money. It's a beautiful system when it works. Millennials and Gen Z showing disillusionment with wealth inequality. And then digital freedom versus surveillance. There's a tension between tech empowerment and privacy erosion. Social justice, there's an emphasis on rectifying historical injustices, often via activism. There's debates about hate speech, cancel culture, and safe spaces. There was increasing health awareness. This is increasing destigmatization and cultural prioritization. I think this part's really good. I think increasing mental health and emotional wellness, emotional intelligence, it's a beautiful thing. Emotional intelligence is recognizing what emotion am I currently feeling right now and identifying it so that you can learn and adapt accordingly, right? Because how you react to your own emotions is a huge, big deal in the rest of the world. Then the second part of emotional intelligence is recognizing and guessing and trying to be as accurate as possible about the other person's emotions. So if you say something, does it make them angry? Does it make them happy? Are you bringing joy to other people? Are you being nice to other people? Or are you causing harm everywhere you go? That's I just think it's very interesting. And it's part of my whole thesis of like, bring value to other people and then it'll help you out. And so, mental health awareness is an awesome thing in 2019. Then anti-authoritarianism with nuance. There's a distrust of institutions, but it also calls for stronger state intervention. And then if you take historical events like Brexit, Trump, populism, all of this challenged open border ideology. I agree with that. I think open borders was terrible. I think that was a bad left policy. Inclusivity. There's gender fluidity, non-mutation, and big tech's influence. So these are differences, okay? Summarize the shift between 2000 and 2019 just to set the context. There, huge emphasis there was on the individual. Now it's on group identity in a systemic context. In the year 2000, there was free markets, neoliberal optimism, and then now there's lots of critiques of inequality and capitalism. In terms of globalization, it was seen as inevitable and a good thing back in 2000. And then it's seen in 2019 as fragmenting. There's nationalistic backlash. Speech in 2000 was unrestricted. It was a liberal principle. And in 2019, it's conditioned by harm reduction ethics. How we think of justice in 2000, legal equality. We very much cared about legal equality in the year 2000. That means when a foreign entity, a group, maybe a nation, we're not sure, but a group attacks us, they have to have an organized effort. And if you attack us and we didn't have the right things to defend ourselves and then a shocking event occurs, we went way overboard to correct for that. And because we went way overboard and started the war in Afghanistan and then the war in Iraq, which I'll outline in this video, that was like a legal equality focus. We thought if we've been wronged, we must do something back to make this right. And then what we didn't realize is that if you're in war with a group like the Taliban, which is distinct and different than Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda is the one that attacked us, but we went into Afghanistan and targeted the Taliban. Well, the Taliban, they're not people that view legal equality in the same way. They view themselves as the oppressed, and they view us as a big evil nation, the U.S., that came in and invaded Afghanistan. And so, of course, they fight. And the way they're going to fight is they're going to fight in their caves. They're not going to engage. They're going to be insurgents. They're not going to look like troops, like official entities. But yet they use the nation of Afghanistan, which we thought was national sovereignty. So we declared war on the nation of Afghanistan, which wasn't really fair to the nation of Afghanistan, because their leadership was very confused, and they didn't approve of terrorist attacks either. So it was just a mess. And so we went into Afghanistan thinking we're going to make this legally right with equality because you guys attacked us, but then we didn't know who we were attacking back, there. We'll get into it, right? But this is the outline. In 2019, there's more of a focus on justice and equity and historical redress. And then finally, in the areas of technology, in 2000, it was an innovation focus. Okay, what can be better and better and better? And in 2019, it's not about better and better and better. It's like privacy, addiction, ethics. These are the things being warned about.